Hey guys, welcome back. In this lecture, we made small changes in our applications. We are slowly transforming our application to car service application, so we changed variable names and also function names and data as well. In this lecture, we'll continue, and I will introduce you a new data structure called object. Alright, so let's start straight away. Open your coding editors and we will create a first object, and I will explain you how object works and why we need object. Okay, so here we have a brand type and a produce here. I think this would be easily replaced by just one data structure called car. Alright, so I will create here a new variable called car, and this will hold object. When you want to define object, let's assign here, so normal equal sign, curly brackets. And now I have just created empty object. Object is just a map of a key value pairs, and I can store multiple values in my object. So here I have an object car, and I can describe my car by the brand, type, and a produce year as I'm doing up here. I can freely copy this to an object, but I need to change few things. As I told you, object is a map of a key value pairs. You don't need to specify here const any longer. Okay, so just a brand. All right, so brand, type, and a produce year. You don't need to write here equal sign in objects. Instead of an object when it's a key and a value, you need to write here a column. Okay, like this, brand, type, and the year. And one more change, you are not writing semicolons here, but the normal colons like this. Colons, and the last key value, you don't need to provide here a semicolon and also colon, you just leave it empty, and it's the last one. So now we have an object car that is described by the properties brand, type, and the produce year. Now you can see we have only one structure, and these ones, brand, type, and the produce year, are called properties. You can see it also when you hover over. You can see here property, produce year, type number, and here is a type of a string and a brand of a string as well. Okay, I think now it looks better. Now we have a car described by these properties, and we can create a second object. All right, so I will create here a second object, and I will call it car2. Car2, and we can get here our values of a Mitsubishi, Lancer, and 2002. Amazing. Alright, actually I will change also my indentation here in my coding editor, because I don't like indentation of 4 spaces. I would like to prefer to have only 2 spaces, so you can do it very simple. I'll just select everything. I think you don't need to even select everything, but just I will select everything. I will click here spaces, and I will choose here change to view, and I will choose here 2 spaces. Okay, now you can see we have 2 spaces, and I will try to also convert indentation to spaces like this. Let's see, we have 2 spaces here. I think you can see this should be indentation of 2 spaces, so only just select everything here, and let's press Shift and a Tab together. Shift and a Tab, and this should move it to the left. When you press only Tab, this will move it to the right, but a Shift Tab move it to the left side. Okay, so now we have here a car. I will get here object. Okay, so this is object, and also car2, it should be car2. Okay, now we want to display information about this object. So how you can extract this property value from your car? So what if I want to display my car2 type or car2 brand? How can I do it? You just need to simply access your car2, okay, my object, and now you use here dot syntax. With the dot, you can access your properties of your object. So I can access here a produce year and a type. Also, I should see here a brand. Okay, so I can access here a brand, produce year, and a type. So I can, let's say I would like to access here a brand, and now car2 brand should hold my Mitsubishi value. So now when I will console log here, car2 brand, this should hold Mitsubishi, right? So semicolon here, let's run this. All right, so oops, not here, node app.js. And you should see it actually. Let's figure it out. Okay, let's see. Brand is not defined. So what's wrong here? Console log, car brand. That's all right. Mitsubishi here, Lancer. I think everything should be okay. Okay, And now it's complaining because we are calling here display car info, but we don't have here any longer a brand type and a produce year. So just for now, I will comment this out. So I will just select these two lines. I will press here a command or a control and a slash, and this will comment it. So this will be not executed any longer. All right, let's go back. And let's try to run here again node app.js, and you should see here Mitsubishi. Okay, so this is called the dot syntax. I can access here my properties of my object here. So car2, I can access here brand, type, produce year, what I defined here, and I can do the same with the car. But in this case, car.brand, you can see car.brand is Mercedes. And I want to access here car type. This will be, of course, Benz. So when I will save this, let's go to our terminals. You will see now I will access here my Benz. Perfect. Okay, so since we know how to access our properties of our objects, we can use them here. Okay, so let's make it working. Okay, so I will uncomment this. So how can you, what do you need to change here in order to get this function working? Okay, so what do you need to change here? Remember, now we don't have here brand type and produce year. We have here only car1, just a car and a car2. Okay, so go ahead. Let's fix this so it will work. Okay, so what we need to do is just simply prefix this with a car. Now I want to access here value of my car brand, which will be Mercedes, car.type, which will be Benz, and a car produce year, which will be the year of a car. Then a car2 brand. Okay, I can remove this 2 from here. Car2 type, car2 type. Okay, so this will be Lancer, and a car2 produce year, which will be 2002, if I remember right. Yes. Okay, so let's save this. Let's go back to our terminals. Let's run this, and everything should work as before. But as you can see, now we have very nice structure, object structure called car here. Or when you want to see actually type of this, because why not? Let's console log here. I will show it to you that it is really object. So you can see here when I will write here type of, you can use your special function type of, and it's not actually function, but it's the special keyword. You can get a type of a data structure. In this case, I would like to get a data structure of a car or a type of a car, and this should be object. Okay, so let's get this here, not app.js, and you can see it's object indeed. All right, so now we have our cars. I would like to do here one more change. I would like to show you that you can specify here not only strings and numbers, but you can also specify here a function itself. So in a car, I can get here a function. Let's call it a display info. Display info, and I can display here information about the car. Okay, so again, display info. This is a key, and a value will be a function. Okay, so function here. Okay, the same as I specified here brand type produce year is a string a number. I can specify here function, and this function will display information about the car. So I can console log here this. Okay, just will copy console log from my display car info, and I will paste it here. This will not work. This will not work because if I want to access a brand type and a year, I need to access it differently. Actually, when an object is created and when I'm inside of the object, I have access to this context. So my object created this context, and I will show it to you how does it work. So first I will comment this, and I will just console log this like this. All right, so there's a special keyword this instead of my display info, and let's try to execute this function. So how can we execute function? We need to access our object, which is a car.syntax, and we need to access the property of our produce, not the produce year, but display info. Since this is a function, we want to execute this, just provide a normal brackets to execute the function. We don't need to provide any parameters to this function because we are not specifying any parameters here. And also let's write a breakpoint here, like this. Now let's click here debugger, let's run this, and we should get inside of here. So we want to execute our display info of our car object. Okay, let's get inside. So let's click here this dot down, this arrow down, step into. We are stepping inside of our function display info, and we are consoling this context. And as you can see here, we have here brand Mercedes. We have here also function display info, which is our function here. All right, and also we have access to our produce year, type Benz, and also there is something called proto. I will not talk about the proto right now. I would like to talk about the proto after I will explain you classes, and then we will talk about the proto because it is more difficult concept, and I don't want to worry worry about it right now. Okay, so just let's see this brand, display info, produce year, and a type. So as you can see here, this is representing your object of the car itself, and I have access here to my properties and also my function here. Okay, so I can get here my brand type and a produce year, right? So I can console log here. In theory, I can access here this dot brand, this dot type, and this dot year. Okay, I can remove this. And now I should display here my informations about my car itself in this display info function. So when I will run this, and I will executing function display info of my car. So let's step into this function. So you'll see we are executing this function, we are calling it, and we are displaying now this brand. Okay, so this brand is holding Mercedes, all right? This type is holding Benz, and this year is holding, doesn't hold anything because we specified here produce year, of course. So we need to call it the same, this produce year. All right, now it should work. So when I will execute this, all right, let's step into one more time. You will see the produce year should be 1995, and now you should display information about your car. So you can see here Mercedes-Benz 1995, and we are calling it twice because we are calling here also display car info function. So don't worry about it. All right, so okay, I will make it actually normal size here, and let's take a look one more time. So instead of my object, I have access to this context. This context holds all of my properties and all of my properties of my car object itself. Okay, if I would use here this context instead of my car2, this context would hold all the properties of my car2, right? Because this context is created when object is created, and it's basically my car object I can access inside of my car when I'm calling some functions. Alright guys, so I think, yeah, I will show you one more thing. Before we'll finish this, I showed you before only dot syntax, but you can call your properties also differently. You don't need to use a dot syntax, but you can use a square brackets syntax. So when you want to execute a display car info, or this just a display info because that's how we are calling it, this property on our car, you can use a square brackets. So I can use here square brackets. Now you need to provide a name of your property as a string. So single quotes and name of your property. So it's a display info. Okay, so display info, now we have access to a car display info, but since this is a function, we need to execute it. So again, normal brackets, we are not providing any values inside because we are not specifying any parameters of this function. All right, semicolon, display car info. When I will launch it, we should see our Mercedes-Benz twice. All right, and it's here, so we are calling this function successfully. You can do the same with the properties. So let's say brand here. All right, I would like to get here a brand. This is not a function. All right, so remove these brackets, and this should get you value of your brand of a car, which is a Mercedes. All right, so you can see we have here, we can access our properties of our object with a square bracket syntax, and maybe you're asking why we have a dot syntax, why we have a square bracket syntax. For example, when you want to get your key of your object dynamically, you can provide here a value from a variable. So let's say I have here, maybe I will get it through the running of my program. I will get here dynamically my key I want to access on some specific object. So let's see here const, let's say brand key, and this will be just a brand value. When I want to access my car of a brand, I can access here my brand key, right? So car access me brand key is holding brand string, so I'm accessing car brand, which is in the case of a car is a Mercedes. Okay, so when I will console log here, I should see here Mercedes. Actually, let's keep it this breakpoint here. Let's debug this so you will see it better here in the debugger. Okay, so then I'll console and log out here my car. I'm accessing property of my brand key, which is a brand. So car, you can take out the brand. This is a Mercedes, so I will display here Mercedes, as you can see down here. You cannot achieve this with a dot syntax, so that's why in these cases we are using this square bracket syntax, because I cannot write here car dot and a brand key because this is trying to access the property itself. So, okay, so it's taking a look on a car and it's trying to get a property of a brand key. But as you can see here, I don't have a property on a car called brand key. Okay, so this will get me, you can guess what this will get me. Let's debug this and you will see brand key undefined. There is no such a property on a card called brand key. So that's why when you want to access property dynamically, you're not using dot syntax, but you are using square brackets, and you provide here the value of a brand key, which will be brand. So now you know what you're accessing. All right, so there's an object, there's a dot syntax, there's a square bracket syntax, and also this context. All right, maybe one more example with this context. I will actually remove this part here. You can keep it if you want. All right, and I would like to create here one more function just under display info. And let's call this function, how we can call it, get this or something like this. All right, I will call it just a get this function. And I didn't spoke about the return types of a function, so maybe it is a little bit early to specify a return type of a function, but I would like to just show you that we can return also value from a function. And what I would like to return here is that this context itself, or actually, I think I will keep the return types of the functions for a next lecture, because this would just create more confusion in this case. Okay, yeah, let's keep it for a next lecture. I'm sorry for this. I will show you this example in next lecture. For now, let's keep your display info and let's refactor only display car info function. Would like to provide here, it will be not my brand type a year, but this will be my whole car. So let's expect to get here a car, and when we will call display car info, we'll provide here our car value and also car to value. Okay, and now it's up to you to change this display car info function so it will work, because currently it will not work. When I will run this, you should get here error that the brand is not defined. Okay, so go ahead and let's try to fix this function so it will work. Okay, so if you are done, I will show you my solution. So when we are providing here car and a car to, when we are calling display car info, we'll get here car object, okay, as a parameter into display car info. And remember, on a car object, we have a properties of a brand type and a produce year. So what I can do here, I can access here car.brand, car.type, and a car.produce year, right? So produce year, and now it should work. All right, so let's try it out. Let's save this. Let's go back to our terminals and let's run here node app.js, and you should see here Mercedes-Benz and Mitsubishi Lancer 2002. Alright guys, so that should be it for this lecture. In the next lecture we will continue, and I will show you return types of functions and also this example what I wanted to show you just a few minutes ago. So guys, that should be it from this lecture, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers guys.